to women-led organization. My name is Christine Apio, and I'm the Regional Emergencies GBV specialist. I lead the work stream on prevention, preparedness, and inclusion in East and Southern Africa region, based here in Nairobi, Kenya. We have amazing speakers from women-led organizations drawn from the different countries in the different regions. And we really look forward to having a very engaging conversation. As we all know, women-led organizations plays a critical role in humanitarian crisis. They're often the first responders when everyone is out. They understand the social norms within their community, and therefore they are well positioned to lead GBV prevention-related actions in their communities. Today's event, therefore, set the pace for an open, engaging, and honest conversation on how we as GBV AORs, we as GBV actors can collectively work together with women-led organizations to identify and break the barriers to their engagement, which means empowering them to be able to address or lead GBV prevention work in their communities. Without further ado, I would like to invite Jennifer Chase, the GBV AOR Global Coordinator, to make a short opening remarks. Jennifer, you do have 3 minutes. Over to you.
I know how Christine, so she put the emphasis on short. So I will try to do my 3 minutes. I always feel a responsibility on the 16 days to remind people where this date came from, the Day Against Violence Towards Women, which is November 25th, which we know was connected to the 10th of December, which is International Human Rights Day. And for some reason, there's a number of people globally who think that this date started with the UN. And I'd have to tell you, the UN often takes a long time to get on board. And this is one of those situations. And so this date of the Day Against Violence Towards Women and Girls on the 25th of November started at a feminist encounter in Colombia, in Latin America, with 30 women who came together from different countries in Central and South America. And there was a woman from the Dominican Republic that talked about how the Maribel sisters, who were visiting their husbands who were political prisoners, were forced off the road, raped and killed. And so at this first gathering, feminist gathering in Colombia, the women said they wanted to honor the Maribel sisters and not only talk about violence against women in a political situation, but in all contexts. And so they decided to create an international date on the 25th of November to recognize all forms of violence against women and girls. And this date started off international within Central and South America and the Caribbean, but then by word of mouth and through organizations, NGOs like Oxfam and different kinds of NGOs, and a lot through women-led organizations, which at that point were referred to as grassroots women's organizations. It went word by word, mouth by mouth around the globe. And it took 12 years for the UN to decide to declare this date as an official date of violence against violence towards women and girls. The Unite campaign started much after that, and that's the Oranging campaign, and that's where the theme for today on prevention and looking at funding for women-led organizations is part of that campaign. But the connecting of the 25th of November to the 10th of December happened at Rutgers University at an international women's seminar where women came together to discuss issues of leadership and empowerment. And they're the ones that decided to connect the two dates and create the 16 days of activism. So I just feel like it's important to share that history of how this date began, to show how 30 women who had an idea together ended up all of us now doing activities on the 16 days, and having it really shows the strength of how a few women getting together can really share the word and put importance on issues that are priorities to us. So I will leave the message at that, but just, you know, to continue sharing with other women organizations the importance of these dates, and showing how leadership is so critical and so vital to transforming women's lives. And I'm really excited to see how many inspiring women are going to be speaking today. And really, these days are to honor you and for the very challenging work that all of you do. I think tenacious is a good word for women working on gender-based violence. We have to be strong, sometimes stubborn, resilient, to keep going, to face all the challenges that we are facing in the many areas of conflict, and in all settings, including development. So back to you, Christine. I hope I stayed within my 3 minutes.
Thank you so much, Jennifer, for that comprehensive and succinct background on the history of the 16 days of activism. What is clear is that, and speaking directly to me, is that, I mean, it doesn't require the number. You know, you don't need to be so many to start something. Just imagine there are 30 women who steered activities that eventually led to the 16 days of activism being recognized. So before I unveil our wonderful panelists, I would like to highlight a few housekeeping rules. I urge everyone to keep their microphone off. Please introduce yourself in the chat. It would be great if you can put your name and the organization you're representing in the chat. We will have time for question and answers in the end, but please, if you do have any questions, kindly post them in the chat. So moving forward, it's time.
Can I just make the comment that we are going to record today so that we can share afterwards. So just so everyone's aware that we're recording. We don't think that it will be sensitive, but if you change your mind after, please let us know.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jennifer, for that. So without further ado, allow me to unveil our wonderful panelists for today. Before I call on the first speaker, I will introduce all of them. We'll have Chaza Mohammed, who's the Executive Director of NADA, Elazar for Disaster Prevention and Sustainable Development in Sudan. We'll have Fatima Sharafaldin, the Women Protection / GBV Area of Responsibility Co-Coordinator in Yemen. That's the Yemen Women's Union. We had Hel Sabah, works for Summer for Development, Netherlands, Lebanon. I'm sorry. I hope I'm pronouncing your name well. And then we have Hala Al-Arzad, Director of the Palestinian Women for Psychosocial Counseling Center in the West Bank. We'll have Gloria Soma, who's the Executive Director, TT Foundation, South Sudan. And then Fatima Iman, the Executive Director, Rehabilitation, Empowerment, and Better Health Initiative, Nigeria. So welcome all our panelists. So I'm going to start with Fatima from the Yemeni Women's Union.
Thank you, Christine.
So Fatima, as the co-coordinator of GBV coordination team in Yemen at the national level, what has been your experience of having a women-led organization as co-coordinator at the national level, and how has this impacted the overall participation of women-led organizations in GBV prevention and response, as well as the access to resources. Fatima, you have 7 minutes. Over to you.
Thank you, Christine. I hope I will be in time. Thank you. So from our side in Yemen, actually gender-based violence, like a prevalent issue in Yemen, intensified by the ongoing conflict, and it's like a devastating impact on the population. In such challenging contexts, effective coordination of GBV intervention become like a crucial to ensure a comprehensive and a survivor-centered response. So women-led organizations play significant role in GBV prevention and response in Yemen. So actually, women-led organizations play a virtual role in raising awareness about GBV, its causes, and its consequences within communities. They conduct education campaigns, workshops, community dialogues to challenge harmful gender norms and promote gender equality, and to foster a culture of respect and nonviolence. For example, utilizing culturally suitable communication challenges such as community gathering, religious institution, local media, so we can disseminate information effectively. So also promote and celebrate the culture community by organizing like events and activities that showcase different culture, like perspective, like like Women International Day and the 60 Days campaign also. So like women-led organization really provide the crucial support services to survivor of GBV. They offer counseling, legal assistance, and safe space for survivors to seek refuge and sharing their experiences. Women-led organization also empower survivors by providing vocational training, income-generating activities, and psychological support, enabling them to rebuild their lives. For example, education, economy opportunities, and safe space are essential to enhance their resilience and agency. So women-led organizations advocate also for policy reforms and legal protection to address GBV effectively. They engage with government institutions, religious leaders, and community influencers to change social norms, challenging discriminatory practices, and ensure the implementation of laws that protect survivors of GBV. So, for example, advocating for policy changes and legal reforms that address protection issues in Yemen. Also advocate for with other sectors like WASH, FSL, Shelter to engage women-led organizations in their intervention. Make also sure that there is a women voices during the humanitarian program cycle. And despite their crucial role, women-led organizations still face many challenges in accessing resources in Yemen, which really hinders their ability to effectively carry out their work. For example, limited funding, security concern, institution capacity, culture, and social barriers. To address these challenges faced by women-led organizations in accessing resources, I think it's crucial to donor and humanitarian actors should prioritize allocating funding to support the work of women-led organizations in Yemen, recognizing their unique contribution and value they bring to GBV prevention and response effort. Also, providing capacity building opportunity, including training on project management, proposal writing, organization development, can strengthen the institution capacity of women-led organization, enabling them to access resources more effectively. So also building partnership between women-led organization, international organization, and local authorities can enhance resource mobilization and coordination. And also engaging with stakeholders in a collaborative manner can help overcome barriers and address the specific needs of women-led organization. So for example, in Yemen, currently, we continue building collaboration and partnership with authorities like Ministry of Social Affairs and Labor, Ministry of Human Rights, and also Women National Committee. So, and really this is support us in Yemen. Also, advocacy effort should focus on highlighting the crucial role of women-led organization in GBV prevention and response, like raising awareness about their work, advocating for their inclusive in decision-making process can help secure resource and support. Recognizing the culture and social dynamic in Yemen, it's essential to adapt intervention and resource allocation strategies to address specific challenges faced by women-led organizations. This really include ensuring culturally sensitive program, providing language support, and adapting approaches to local contexts. For example, in Yemen, we developed a new GBV strategy that really support us and support South and North, which is considered the culture and context dynamic. We also changed some...
You have 1 minute. Sorry, you have 1 minute. Thanks.
Yeah, we also changed some terminology that consider the culture context for North. In brief, by addressing this challenge faced by women-led organizations in accessing resource, the effectiveness and reach of GBV prevention and response efforts can be significantly enhanced. Empowering and supporting women-led organizations is essential for achieving sustainable change and combating GBV in Yemen. Thank you, Christine.
Thank you, Fatima, for sharing the great work that women-led organizations are doing in Yemen. And really, thanks to the co-leadership of Yemeni's Women's Union in Yemen, I think what has come out so clearly from your presentation is that women-led organization does so much. They do a lot of things, and yet their contributions, but also the values, are hardly sort of recognized. And therefore, really the need for humanitarian actors, including GBV actors, to recognize the unique values that women-led organizations bring and the contributions that they make. This will transition us to the next speaker, which is we had El Shabe from Summer for Development, Lebanon. We had...
Yes, we did.
Oh, we had, sorry, apologies.
We did.
We had, I'm so sorry for the pronunciation. So based on the experience of your organization in CAFI project, how has this impacted your organization's access to resources? And is there anything you'd like to share with women-led organizations and GBV teams in other contexts, whether IDPs, refugees, or mixed settings, based on the experience of your organization in Lebanon? Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you first for having me today. I am honored to represent the CAFI project at this significant webinar on empowering women-led organizations in GBV prevention amid emergencies. My name is Widad El Sabah. I'm a founder and director at Summer for Development, and I serve as focal point in Lebanon at the CAFI project. The Call to Action Field Implementation CAFI project, as the name suggests, aims to implement the global call to action on prevention from gender-based violence on the ground. The project is dedicated to the crucial cause of preventing gender-based violence, and our commitment lies in empowering women-led organizations, recognizing the pivotal role they play in addressing and preventing GBV in emergencies. CAFI works across 10 countries in MENA, Latin America, West and Central Africa, and Europe. In each country, CAFI has one or two partner focal points who coordinate a network of women-led organizations. In our journey, CAFI has identified recurring challenges faced by women-led organizations. These challenges significantly impede the impactful work that these organizations strive to achieve in emergency response situations. The challenges faced by WLOs are multi-phased, and one prominent obstacle is insufficient financial support. This constraints hinders their capacity to address the unique and pressing issues related to GBV prevention. Women-led organizations play a crucial role in emergency responses for several reasons. One is that WLOs often serve as frontline responders, leveraging their deep understanding of community dynamics to provide immediate and culturally sensitive support during a crisis. Women-led organizations possess a nuanced understanding of community needs, particularly those related to GBV, due to their close ties with the affected population. The challenges faced by WLOs are further underscored by the lack of space for their engagement in the humanitarian response. Insufficient representation of WLOs at the critical platform, such as the GBV subcluster, perpetuates a gap in addressing gender-based violence and gender-specific concerns during emergencies. To overcome these challenges, the GBV project has implemented innovative models and strategies. A compelling example is our commitment to building robust networks and fostering collaborations. One key initiative involves building networks of local women-led organizations. These networks establish clear charters to enhance collaboration, improve performance at various levels, national, regional, and global, and foster a culture of accountability. And part of our innovative approach also includes activating the role of women in international conferences. We believe in giving them leadership tasks and facilitating sessions, ensuring their voices are not only heard, but also influential in shaping the disclosure on GBV prevention. This also expands our network with other stakeholders and donors. As we collectively reflect on the powerful experiences and narratives shared today, let us not lose sight of the crucial need to grant women-led organizations greater access to humanitarian and GBV coordination mechanisms, as well as funding. Beyond mere acknowledgement, we must advocate for multi-year, flexible funding, taking into consideration essential overhead expenses. Together, we have the power to pave the way for a world free from the shackles of gender-based violence. Participants should not only collaborate and share knowledge, but actively contribute to the empowerment of women-led organizations. It goes beyond raising awareness. It's about equipping these organizations with the resources they need to make a lasting impact. With increased financial support, WLOs can expand their outreach, develop more robust programs, and effect systemic change within their communities. Thank you all for your dedication and participation. The journey towards a world free from gender-based violence starts with us together. Let us join hands in advocating for increased flexibility and a higher percentage of funding specifically allocated to GBV interventions. By doing so, we not only acknowledge the importance of this cause, but also demonstrate our commitment to effecting tangible change. Together, we can make a lasting impact.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Widad El Sabah, for that a very succinct and strategic call to action. What has come very clearly in your presentation is the power of networks and the value that networks of women-led organizations can bring in terms of collective action, collective advocacy, etc. But you have also called for the need for sufficient representation of women-led organizations in GBV coordination platform. as well as other coordination platforms. And just happy to highlight that partnership and localization is critical and central to the GBV AOR's global strategy for 2021 to 2025, and strengthening engagement of women-led organization in GBV coordination is key to GBV AOR. So I'm really happy that you place an emphasis on that as well. But also you have called for greater access to resources as well as funding. And I guess everyone on the call have taken note on that. So we're going to transition to our next panelist, and that is, and apologies if I don't pronounce the name correctly, Kwala Al-Azraq, who is the director of the Palestinian Women for Psychosocial Counseling Center in the West Bank. We all know that what's happening in Palestine, in the West Bank, so really, really grateful that you spared some time to be with us, Kwala. So Kwala, is any reflections on any capacity built as a result of the allocation of resources for the response in Palestine, and what type of capacity building, how was it, different, or what benefits or value did such capacity building bring, and what was the enabling factor? Is Kwala online?
Yes, thank you so much.
Yes.
I will talk in Arabic, and thank you for allow me to speak in Arabic. I can express myself better.
Oh, that's perfect. So for those who need interpretation, just look at the sign, the round sign like the globe, at the bottom of the screen. And you can select the language. At the bottom of the screen, there is the globe sign, the sign of the globe, and beneath it is written interpretation. Click that and select Arabic. Over to you, Paula.
Thank you, Christina. بداية أود أن أعبر عن شكر العميق لكم لإتاحة هذه الفرصة الهامة لنا للمشاركة في هذا اللقاء الذي يفتح فضاء أوسع لتبادل التجارب والخبرات بيننا كمؤسسات نسوية من سياقات مختلفة. ونود أن نشكر شركائنا في صندوق الأمم المتحدة للسكان في فلسطين، والذين ساهموا في دعمنا لنستطيع الاستمرار في تقديم خدماتنا للنساء والفتيات والوصول لقطاعات أوسع. هذا اللقاء يأتي في مرحلة عصيبة نمر بها نحن الفلسطينيون، حيث يتعرض شعبنا الفلسطيني في غزة والضفة الغربية منذ 7 أكتوبر لهجوم غير مسبوق، ضحاياه بالدرجة الأولى من المدنيين وبالتحديد من النساء والأطفال، وتدمير كافة مقومات الحياة الإنسانية، وهذا تبعاً للقانون الدولي، والقانون الدولي الإنساني يصنف كجريمة حرب. مركز الإرشاد النفسي والاجتماعي للمرأة هو مؤسسة نسوية فلسطينية تأسست عام 97 برؤية تستند إلى أن المساواة تامة وإلغاء كافة أشكال التمييز ضد النساء هي الأساس في بناء دولة فلسطينية مستندة لمبادئ المواطنة وحقوق الإنسان. نحن في مركز الإرشاد نقدم رزمة من الخدمات للنساء، وتتضمن خدمات الصحة النفسية والدعم القانوني المجاني، وخدمات التمكين الاقتصادي، وأيضا حملات التثقيف والتوعية المجتمعية، والتي تشمل الذكور والإناث بهدف تجنيد مناصرين أكثر من الذكور، وكذلك تنفيذ حملات ضغط ومناصرة بشراكة مع ائتلافات نسوية أخرى. سأستعرض في هذه المداخلة بشكل سريع الأنشطة المتعلقة ببناء القدرات لإبراز هذا المكون كمكون مهم من خلال استخدام بعض التمويل، وذلك لأنه لدينا تجربة ناجحة من خلال حصولنا على منحة ضمن مشروع سيرف، وهذا ساهم بشكل كبير في تطوير قدراتنا، وبالتالي تطوير نوعية ومستوى الخدمات التي تقدم للنساء والفتيات. من ضمن المجالات التي تم بناء قدراتنا فيها، تم تفعيل الصفحة الإلكترونية للمؤسسة بالتعاقد مع أحد الخبراء، وبحيث تم إعادة تصميمها، وهذا سمح بنشر منجزات المؤسسة باللغة العربية والإنجليزية، وبالتالي فتح أفق جديد للانفتاح على شركاء جدد، وأصبحوا قادرين على الاطلاع على نطاق عمل المؤسسة ومنجزاتها. من جانب آخر، نحن تلقينا تدريبات متقدمة في كتابة التقارير بشكل مهني ضمن المعايير المعتمدة عالمياً. أيضاً تم بناء قدرات الطاقم في كيفية إصدار أوراق حقائق وأوراق موقف وإنتاج مواد إعلامية كلها تركز على قضايا النساء والدفاع عن قضايا النساء، وتم استثمار هذه المهارات التي اكتسبت في إدارة الأزمة الحالية التي نتعرض لها كشعب وكمجتمع. وأطلقنا حملة تحت اسم للحقيقة صوت، ولكل إنسان من غزة حكاية، ووصلت هذه المنتجات لعشرات الآلاف من المشاهدين. أيضا برنامج بناء القدرات أتاح لنا أن ننتج رسائل توعوية ومواد توعوية للأهالي وللنساء وللعاملين في الخطوط الأمامية، وبالتحديد في هذه الأزمة وفي هذا العدوان الذي نتعرض له، بحيث تستطيع النساء والأهالي والعاملين المهنيين التعامل مع تبعات هذه الصدمات النفسية التي يتعرضون لها. أيضا تم مراجعة بعض المقاييس التي تستخدم خلال عملية تقديم الدعم النفسي للأطفال والبالغين، بحيث تم تجديد هذه المقاييس، وهذا ساعد في أن يكون هناك عملية تشخيص وتقييم بشكل أفضل. التدريبات أيضا التي تلقيناها من خلال برنامج بناء القدرات، أصبح لدينا قدرات في الإدارة المالية أفضل من السابق، وأصبحت السياسات المالية المتبعة في المؤسسة تواكب المعايير المتبعة في العديد من المؤسسات الدولية. أيضا وبالرغم من أن المنحة التي قدمت لنا كانت منحة صغيرة ولفترة قصيرة، إلا أنها ساهمت بشكل كبير في تقوية مركز الإرشاد الذي يضم 22 موظف وموظفة، ويركز تدخلاته في أكثر المناطق تهميشاً وفقراً في الضفة الغربية، وبالتحديد المناطق المصنفة جيم، بمعنى هذه المناطق التي تقع تماماً تحت سيطرة الاحتلال الإسرائيلي. وأيضاً نركز خدماتنا في مخيمات اللاجئين. هذه المنحة وبناء القدرات هذا ساهم بشكل كبير في أن نصل إلى قطاعات أوسع من النساء والفتيات، وأن نطور من نوعية خدماتنا بشكل كبير. في هذه الفترة الحالية أود أن أذكر بأن الضفة الغربية تمر في حالة في منتهى التعقيد. الاحتلال الإسرائيلي فرض علينا إجراءات قاسية جدا تتمثل بوضع معيقات للحركة والتنقل بسبب الحواجز، عزل المجتمعات عن بعضها البعض، إطلاق عنان المستوطنين المسلحين بحيث يمارسوا العنف والقتل ضد السكان المدنيين بلا قيود. في نفس الوقت هناك انهيار تام في الوضع الاقتصادي وارتفاع في معدلات الفقر، وذلك بسبب تسريح عشرات الآلاف من العمال الذين كانوا يعملون داخل إسرائيل والآن هم بدون عمل، وأيضا بسبب انهيار القطاع الخاص على مدى الشهرين الماضيين. كل هذا يضعنا أمام تحدي كبير، وهو ضرورة أن يكون لدينا برامج مستجيبة للاحتياجات الإنسانية للمواطنين. لذلك باعتقادي أن التركيز على هذا الجانب في هذه الفترة بالتحديد، سواء في الضفة الغربية أو في قطاع غزة، هو مهم جدا. أود أن أذكر شيء آخر، بأنه هذا العدوان الذي يتعرض له الشعب الفلسطيني منذ حوالي 55 يوم، يعني برأينا هو يصنف كجريمة حرب، وهو عملية إبادة جماعية. حين نتحدث عن الإبادة الجماعية لا يعني هذا أن يتم قتل ملايين البشر، ولكن يعني أن تقتل كافة مقومات
You have 1
الإنسان.
minute.
Yes.
1 minute left.
Yes, okay. ما أود أن أقوله، إذا أنتم كنتم مهتمين بالتعرف على تبعات هذه الحرب وهذا العدوان الذي نمر به كفلسطينيين، نحن مستعدين لتزويدكم بتقارير حول هذا الموضوع، وأيضا أن تكون هناك لقاءات أخرى معمقة أكثر للحديث بشكل أعمق حول تبعات هذه الحرب وأهوالها على النساء. شكرا جزيلا لكم.
Thank you so much, Paula, for your submission. Again, I mean, I respect the strength, the resilience that your organizations continue to portray by serving the women and girls in the West Bank, and under such challenging situations. What you have highlighted in your presentation is the partnership with women-led organizations that this funding has enabled you to get into, but also the fact that the capacity building that you were able to undertake as a result of the funding led to improvement in the services delivered for women and girls, which is really exciting to hear. The awareness raising, which is key, but also you spoke about improvement in both your technical and financial capabilities. And I think this really sends a clear message in terms of, areas that need further investment when it comes to supporting different women-led organizations. So thank you so much for sharing experience from your setting, and continue doing the great job. We will now transition to South Sudan, and we'll be hearing from Gloria Soma, who is the Executive Director, Titi Foundation, South Sudan. So Gloria, we know there are many innovative ways to fund GBV prevention and response efforts. On 6th of November, 2023, the Emergency Relief Coordinator, Mr. Martin Griffith, together with the government of Germany, as the lead of the call to action on protection from gender-based violence in emergencies, convened a high-level roundtable with heads of UN agencies, donor countries, and representatives of women-led organizations to discuss concrete solutions to address the funding shortfall for GBV and how to increase GBV prioritization in humanitarian response. As the women-led organization that was involved in the discussions, and as part of the Interagency Standing Committee call to action roundtable on GBV financing, could you share with us the outcomes of this roundtable and how it's going to impact the current funding mechanism for women-led organizations? Thank you, and over to you, Gloria.
Thank you very much, Christine. I'll just go over a quick note on the same presentation that I did during the roundtable meeting, with a few of the concrete action points that I actually put forward. Thanks very much, everyone, for this opportunity to be here today. As I speak as the director of the TT Foundation, which is an organization that's fighting for the rights of marginalized communities, particularly those of women and girls, in South Sudan, a country torn apart by decades of war and incredible human suffering. For me, this is deeply very personal, as I also stand before you as a South Sudanese woman and a former refugee of my homeland. In my life, I have experienced war, displacement, disease, hunger, and witnessed gender-based violence, abuse, and exploitation. Yet what I'm currently witnessing in South Sudan is beyond even my imagination. As I speak, an estimated of 2.8 million people will be facing GBV risks in 2023, which is a 9% increase from the 2022 estimates if they do not receive immediate aid. The convergence of conflict, climate change, as seen by recent floods displacing hundreds of thousands from their homes and destroying agricultural land, gender inequality, and economic crisis is increasing on the prevalence of GBV across the country. This task is daunting, but there are also concrete actions that donors, national governments, international community, and the NGO sector as a whole need to take or need to do so that we can elevate some of this suffering. One is that we need to immediately fund the GBV response, including directly funding local women-led organizations who are always at the forefront of interventions in their countries. Donors need to turn their promises into action, and other partners must also step up. We must address the root causes of GBV, and this means ending conflict, especially for the context of South Sudan, and any harmful social practice and also holding perpetrators to account. We must also acknowledge that gender inequality creates disproportionate effects on women and girls, which increases on the violence. If we fail to grasp this reality, we will fail to effectively counter GBV. Women and girls must be protected and empowered to have full, equal, and meaningful participation in prevention and response efforts, as well as in conflict resolution processes. I want to also see increased accountability, for example, within the systems that monitors the funding expenditures by international agencies towards local women-led organizations, and this must be publicly reported. We also need to hold at country level the HCs accountable to the prioritization of GBV programming, whether within the HRP cycles or within the put-one mechanisms or even SAP, and would want to actually see a target of 40% if we are to get there. Finally, to the donors, I say you need to stop politicizing aid in decisions related to funding. Local women-led organizations know their communities better and should, alongside their communities, be given the lead roles in deciding the responses. And on this note, I think we need to become better listeners. Moved by my own personal experiences of seeing rape, murder, abduction, and forced displacements, today as an organization, I strive to lead and give space to everyone, especially women and girls, to make decisions on how they want to be assisted. Just as I would have wished when I faced displacement, uncertainty, violence, and loss. Every day I see this approach bringing about change and providing a better response. Together with those we serve, so much innovation is brought to the table by women and girls that others have looked down on, underestimated, or marginalized. To me, this shows the importance of the aid system putting the dignity of affected people at the heart of any response. Ultimately, to me, this is what accountability really is all about. Everyone, no matter their status, being able to speak truth to power and hold those with authority to account for their actions. I'm fully aware of my own obligations and responsibilities as a civil society leader in the fight to prevent and respond to the chronic GBV needs in my country. But today, I solemnly call upon all of you to stand in solidarity, and we need to act all together now. Thank you very much, Christine. Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Gloria, from the TT Foundation. It got me quite emotional. because I was in South Sudan on mission about a week ago. And yeah, the situation is really, really, really dire. And above all, South Sudan is also hosting returnees and asylum seekers from Sudan, the crisis. So we cannot imagine, we can imagine how the situation is. And I'm happy that you mentioned the issues around resources, because we are at a situation where most of the donors have announced a 50% cut in funding for the humanitarian response in 2024, and that's gonna have huge implications on funding for women-led organizations, I would imagine. But Gloria, you have mentioned that there's been a 9% increase from 2022 of the number of women and girls survivors of GBV will need GBV services. And therefore, it means if the services are not adequately funded, and then these women and girls risk not having access and really facing the consequences, such as HIV infections, unwanted pregnancies, among others. You've highlighted the need for women's participation, the need for women to determine the kind of programming that needs to be set up. And I must say that this was what was highlighted by all the stakeholders that we met during the mission to South Sudan. And I just wanted to reinforce that. You spoke about really the need to monitor the funding, where it's going to towards, which I think is very critical, the issues of accountability, the need to address the root cause of GBV, which we do know is gender inequality. And we also do know that investment in prevention tend to be the lowest or even non-existent in many contexts. So probably it's time for donors, for funders to rethink around investing more in prevention. So thank you, Gloria, for highlighting that. So we'll now go to our next speaker, Fatima Iman, the Executive Director, Rehabilitation, Empowerment, and Better Health Initiative in Nigeria. Fatima, what is the trend in supporting women-led organizations' leadership in GBV response more generally, and what are some of the challenges and bottlenecks? Fatima Iman from Nigeria. Is Fatima online?
Yes, she is. She might have some connection issues. We can,
Okay.
I think she's here. We cannot hear you, Fatima.
Fatima, we can't hear you. Okay, Fatima, maybe as you sort out your connection, I don't know whether Shaza Mohammed is on.
Yes,
Shaza,
I'm on. Yes.
Okay. Thank you. I think we can have Shaza go as we wait for Fatima. So Shaza, I'd already introduced you as the Executive Director, NADA Helazar, for Disaster Prevention and Sustainable Development, NADA Sudan. So we know there's been a crisis most recently in Sudan. So what have been the opportunities and challenges for resourcing women-led organizations with the current mechanisms in Sudan? And how does your response to GBV in these emergencies addresses the long-lasting discrimination in Sudan? Over to you, Shaza.
Thank you very much and good afternoon. Thank you very much for the organizer and thank you very much for all the participants in the call. Again, my name is Shaza Najmuddin Ahmed and I'm working for a women-led organization, Nada Al-Azhar for Disaster Prevention and Sustainable Development in Sudan. I'd like to really take you in a quick and short manner on GBV in Sudan, pre and during the current conflict, with focus on some risks and challenges and achievement despite the global situation in Sudan, with unpredictable security situation, worst displacement experience ever, with millions of people flee their houses, drastic health situation, horrible living conditions, lack of education and livelihood services, and more difficultly, explosion and abuse using people bodies, including children, girls and boys, as a weapon, especially between some ethnic groups and tribes. As we all know that GBV is very sensitive, and even prior to the current conflict, humanitarian actors in Sudan, especially women-led organizations, face number of challenges when implementing GBV intervention. For instance, lack of knowledge, lack of awareness raising among targeted communities, as well as among local authorities, reservations in implementation of core GBV programs and among some targeted communities, and stigma and psychological barriers. But what happened after April 15th and the drastic political and security change in Sudan, all the existing challenges are drastically increased. Number of sexual exploitation and abuse is sharply increasing with alarming number on daily basis. And the actual number are likely much higher due to shame and stigma, and unfortunately due to the fear of arrested by the perpetrators. Security situation and forced displacement, lack of proper camps, now in Sudan, under the current conflict, IDPs are settled in schools, in universities, in dorms. Some of them, they even stay in mosques and open barracks in Gaza station, and this unorganized IDP settlement worsen the situation of women and children and explore them more and put them at heightened risk of sexual abuse and exploitation. On the other side, we are facing another challenge, which is the limited humanitarian support due to the security situation, but also due to the unwelcoming humanitarian policy in Sudan. So we don't have a well-established humanitarian corridor. So food, medical assistance push women and children to work casual jobs in a far isolated places, in very odd time like night or early morning shifts, which also expose them to more GBV violation, especially among girls and boys. We also have, as a result of the current situation, outbreak of trafficking and smuggling phenomena. So many people that are trying to move across the border and to go to Egypt, to South Sudan, as my colleague just correctly stated, our previous speaker, she just correctly stated that now in South Sudan, number of Sudanese refugees and asylum seekers are very high. In the middle of this dark situation and with huge gaps and needs, there should be a response. And we as women-led organization, we have to stand up and to do some operation in hot zone areas, namely in Darfur and Khartoum state. Our emergency response teams start to really conduct protection monitoring missions, conduct need assessment exercise, and also we try to reprogram all our existing projects to ensure that we have integrated GBV intervention across the board. On the other side, we try to also be more creative and to mainstream protection to all intervention that we have in place. as well as applying for additional funding. And luckily enough, with the support from Sudan Humanitarian Fund, there was a quick response, which responds to, in hot zones, response to GBV issues with a very flexibility modality. But guess what? We cannot also implement the GBV activities due to the restriction from authorities and lack of awareness of non-humanitarian areas. Like now in Sudan, we have like northern state and other part of the country which didn't witness any conflict or any conflict or any dispute or any humanitarian context in the previous period, so they're not familiar with the humanitarian challenges and humanitarian pathways, humanitarian gaps and needs. And that put all of us, including our staff at rural area, in the risk of really facing GBV violation for our staff. We thought that we need also to be more creative. So our teams try to make a more sustainable operational plan to ensure that GBV services will be delivered timely. So we try also to use other operations. So we used to work with our colleague on NFIs, food distribution, health assistant programming, and then we disseminate GBV messages. And we also, I thought it's very important to leave no one behind. So we create new innovation whereby we adopt like a women and children center approach, especially women and children with special needs, including women and children with disabilities. And so we use different modalities in developing, like using drawing or mobile campaign to reach people with sight or hearing problems. The main challenge that we face as a women-led organization is really access to legal services for our staff and for our survivors. So in Sudan, we have a form which called Form 8. Any rape woman or any woman who face any sexual exploitation or physical abuse, she need to report to the police, and then after that she can go to the
you have 1 minute.
Okay, and then she can go to the hospital to receive support. But unfortunately, with the lack of legal system, we fail to really making a referral pathway and safe access to legal aid, which really hinder women and girls from having a very dignified and respectful GBV and protection response. Thank you, and over to you.
Thank you so much, Shaza, for that. And I know you're operating under a very challenging context, and we really applaud you for the courage. So let's hear from Fatima Iman from Nigeria. Fatima, what trends are you seeing in terms of supporting women-led organizations, leadership in GBV response and prevention, and any challenges and bottlenecks? 7 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Christine, and good evening to everyone. It's been quite a while, Christine, since I saw you. And yes, I would like to speak to my Nigerian experience, which somehow is not radically different from what the other panelists have, just presented, South Sudan, Palestine, Lebanon. To a very large extent, all the challenges and all the bottlenecks are actually the same. So from issues around representation, issues around leadership within the coordination spaces that we have in Nigeria, I want to slightly focus on, honestly, the positive sides. For a very long time, as local actors and especially as women-led organizations, we have emphasized on being heard and listened to. And I want to say to everyone here, and especially to donors and the international organizations, that this advocacy about strengthening women-led organizations and funding them is actually doable. It's actually possible. So in Nigeria currently, through the country-based pool fund, for the first time, we are having an envelope that is dedicated solely to women-led organizations to compete amongst themselves, and also with an initiative that each of these women-led organizations would carry along another up-and-coming women-led organization to build the capacity. That is what we have been advocating for, And then as one of the areas that is being prioritized for funding is the GBV. So it means that it's a very big opportunity for women-led organizations within the GBV subsector to take advantage of this funding opportunity, but as well, be innovative within the GBV response. We're talking about prevention, we're talking about risk mitigation, we're talking about, all these things. So this is an opportunity for women-led organizations to take advantage of and to actually put into practice and to also make everyone see that resources allocated to women-led organizations will produce more impact. That has been the advocacy and that has been the message for a very long time. And we are very happy to say that one of the initiatives that donors can take advantage of is, for example, through the country-based pool fund. You just recently announced that there is a 50% cutting or, short of the funding allocation for next year. This is one great opportunity for donors to come together and support women-led organizations, but especially to support those areas that we have all agreed to be greatly underfunded. And in this instance, I'm talking about GBV. So I just don't want to really bore us with all the challenges and the bottlenecks that has already been discussed by the previous panelists, but also to just emphasize that it is possible, for us to take advantage of certain initiatives and make it in such a way that women-led organizations would actually be very visible and then be very innovative in what they know how to do best. We all agree that women-led organizations are the first responders, and then they're the most closest to communities. And when given the right opportunity and the funding, then we can go and do what we know how to do best. So I think I can stop here and over to you, Christine. Thank you.
Thank you, Fatima. And really exciting to hear about the progress with Nigeria when it comes to the pool fund. But I've also got you clearly on the importance of leveraging different existing initiatives. So thank you so much for the great work you and your counterparts continuing to do in Nigeria. So now we'll have some interventions from the floor. And first, I would like to give the platform to Nico Rost, the head of program of Central Emergency Response Fund, SAF, OCHA. Over to you, Nico. You have approximately 5 minutes. Is Nico? Okay. Okay. If Nico is not there, we can go to Narciso Rosa Berlanga, Programming and Partnership Lead, Fund Management Support Unit in the country-based pool funds section of OCHA. Over to you, Rosa.
Christine, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, so this is Nico, Nar, and we are in the same room. So if you don't mind, I can speak first and then can hand over to Narciso. All right. So the Central Emergency Response Fund, the CERF, or the UN's Global Humanitarian Fund, is a fund for and by the humanitarian system. So therefore, we always support the priorities and commitments of the humanitarian community, and including its commitments to increase localization, to support women-led organizations, and also to prioritize GBV prevention and response. And so, as you said, Christine, in the beginning, women-led organizations, they play a critical role in the humanitarian response. And so in early 2019, we declared GBV prevention and response a priority for the CERF. And since then, we've ensured that GBV programming is included in our allocations and prioritized in our allocations. And you can see this in the numbers. So last year, 4 out of every 5 projects that we funded had GBV programming as their main objective or as a programming element. In late 2020, when gender-based violence increased during the pandemic, we allocated 25 million to UNFPA and UN Women for GBV programs in 11 countries. And different from the projects that we usually fund, these projects ran for 2 years. which is much longer than the rapid response fund projects that we usually see. And so we worked with the 2 UN agencies to ensure that at least 1/3 of that funding would go to local women-led organizations. And in the end, they channeled about 40% of the funding to women-led organizations. And so that's about 10 million. And so the results of this allocation are just in. The 2 UN agencies had commissioned an independent evaluation of the allocation, which found that this was a timely, unique, and innovative allocation, and that produced strong overall results. So those are direct quotes, and made a positive contribution to GBV prevention and response. Of course, the evaluation also discovered many challenges and things that we should improve, and we will take those into account and learn from them. But overall, it found that women-led organizations had been able to strengthen their capacities and could participate more actively in the humanitarian system. In addition to channeling funding to women-led organizations, we've also changed our approach to help ensure that women-led organizations are increasingly and systematically consulted when a country team prioritizes activities for SURF allocation, so that when they put together their strategy. And so in the Central African Republic, for example, where we just allocated funding, the humanitarian coordinator organized a workshop with local NGOs to hear their inputs for how to prioritize the SURF funding, and then took that into account when they developed the strategy. And about 10 women-led organizations participated in this workshop. And my colleague from OCHA, who is leading this in CAR, she's on this call, so big shout out to Evelyn from the CAR Humanitarian. SURF is the UN's global humanitarian fund, but OCHA, the organization that I work for, also manages 20 country-based funds around the world, and they allocate about 40% of their funding to local partners, including many women-led organizations, and that's about $325 million so far this year. My colleague now will talk more about that. But SURF and the country-based pool funds, they represent only a small share of humanitarian financing globally. And so it's important that we can work in complementarity with other funding channels, other donors, that we can better prioritize funding going to women-led organizations and also for GBV prevention. You mentioned it, Christine, the head of OCHA recently appealed to better prioritize and fund GBV prevention and response at this roundtable. And so as a fund for and by the humanitarian system, SURF will continue to support these priorities. And with that, let me hand over to Narcisa with you.
Yeah, and thank you for that commitment. Yes. Over to you, Narciso. You have 5 minutes.
Thank you, Christine, and thank you, colleagues. So, as echoing my sub-colleague Nico, OCHA recognized the pivotal role played by the country-based pool funds and SURF, CBPF and SURF. And we try to champion gender equality, including the prevention, mitigation, response to the GBV. Actually, we have presence or activities of the funds in 19 countries, including a regional humanitarian fund for West and Central Africa. And last year, we are still looking at this 23, but last year we allocated already almost 60 million to initiatives specifically dedicated to addressing GBV and nearly assisting 3 million people in different humanitarian crises. Regarding specifically the CBPF, the revised global guidelines have strengthened the direction on gender equality and GBV, incorporating aspects such as budget tracking, data analysis across funded projects, and the implementation and monitoring of the gender and age marker. We have also developed guidance not on localization, AAP, PSA, gender equality, GBV, among other programming areas to support the CBPF manager and their teams in operationalizing these areas in the day-to-day activities and providing an overview of minimum practices aiming to further engaging with local partners and specifically in some topics with local women's organizations. An important step that CBPF are doing is systematically fostering increasing representation of local government organizations in funding decision and allocation processes. For example, at the global level, as Fatima announced, because it's the representative of women or local women organization in the Pool Fund Working Group with other 7 NGOs, UN agencies, and donors. And also at a country level, 24 women organizations were represented last year on the country-based Pool Fund advisory boards out of 44 local and national NGOs. So it's a good proportion. In the same year, the funds dedicated approximately 55 million to local women's organizations. For instance, in Venezuela, in the Venezuela Humanitarian Fund, was allocated 4 million to enhance the capacity of 17 local women's organizations, focusing on activities also including GBV. Additionally, this year, the Democratic Republic of Congo Humanitarian Fund is preparing the launch of 10 million allocation, which 20% will be used to support a pilot program for local women's organization. Also to expand protection solutions against GBV in very difficult areas in the eastern part of the country. Also, the Central African Republic Humanitarian Fund is preparing an allocation of 3 million for GBV activities in the coming months.
Is it possible to wrap up?
Yeah, yes, I'm finishing. Thank you.
Yeah.
So just to say that OCHA is committed to further strengthen the role and raise the voice of women organizations in the prioritization of these funds. And as Fatima mentioned, also the question of supporting capacity development of local women organizations through training programs and improving the access to the CBPF grant is other of the priorities. No, just last year, just to say that more than 380 women's organizations were training through the CBPF, and we hope to continue that in 2023 and in the coming years. So thank you so much, Christine.
Thank you, OCHA colleagues, for that. We acknowledge the progress as well, but we also continue to recognize the gaps that still exist, and we really appreciate that commitment from OCHA. We're going to hear from Amira Taha, who is the Global GBV Emergency Coordinator, CARE International. Amira, would you please try to bottom line and maybe within 5 minutes? Over to you. Sorry, I did notice that 5 minutes was meant for each organization. So I apologize for that. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Christine. Thanks so much for the opportunity for CARE to present today on one of our initiatives, CAFI, the Call to Action Field Implementation Program. That is a high impact, low cost, and easily transferable good practice of localization of women's leadership and participation in humanitarian context. We'll try to sum up what CAFI aims to do as it brings a transformative approach to operationalize the call to action on protection from gender-based violence by aiming to shift power from HQ decision makers in the global north to women and girls GBV service providers and responsible governments in the global south. The project works with women-led organizations to drive change and foster GBV prevention, risk mitigation, and response in humanitarian emergencies. And its current phase is funded by GFFO, working in with 10 partners across Latin America, West and Central Africa, the Middle East and North Africa, as well as Europe. It acts as a consortium where CARE works with those 10 women-led organizations, but also offers a platform that has served now over 200 women-led organizations as they strengthen their capacity. CAFI seeks to catalyze increased representation and leadership of women and girls, specifically women-led organizations, in decision-making structures and humanitarian assistance. It also seeks to amplify GBV expertise and scale existing capacity of women-led organizations and address GBV root causes and coordinate effective response and GBV risk mitigation programming. So it aims to contribute to women-led organization strengthening through capacity sharing and transform that, up-bottom approach between partners. Women-led organizations are engaged from the very beginning, allowing them to co-create and adapt the project according to their needs and context. So it does ensure accountability to women voice and leadership throughout the whole project cycle for improved leadership, ownership, and decision-making by the women-led organizations and the women and girls that they work with. Consortium members are directly funded by CARE, with funding now from GFFO. Previous phase was funded by BPRM. To serve as national and regional focal points with CARE then incurring all potential risks. And as part of our equitable humanitarian principle, CARE is also committed to supporting donors adapt their own internal procedures to transfer resources to women-led organizations directly and act as an intermediary only when needed. And this should aim to bring flexibility depending on the context. As a result of now 3 years of implementation, we're going into the 4th. CAFI has supported women-led organizations improve their capabilities to meaningfully implement GBV prevention and response activities on the ground that they design and they lead and they co-create, as well as to participate and lead in national, regional, and global humanitarian structures. CAFI has also provided a platform for international stakeholders and women-led organizations to directly connect, and it has offered the space and opportunity for this direct connection through learning, networking, funding, and providing the space for women's needs and demands to be voiced through their own voices and not have CARE as an intermediary for women voice and leadership in addressing GBV. This is critical and which we perceive as very important to GBV, i.e. Prevention, response, and risk mitigation, and thus contributing to transforming the humanitarian system, which we are a part of, to become more of an enabling environment for women-led organizations' meaningful and substantive participation. Thank you, Christine.
Thank you, Amira, and really amazing to hear of the great initiative that CARE is championing, giving power to women-led organizations. I think that is very well needed. So we are quite tight on time, so we will not be able to take all the questions. So maybe I'll just sample 2 questions. There's a question from Alina Potts, and I will read. During times of acute crisis, when there is potentially a big increase in funding, what would enable women-led organizations to better receive and manage these funds? Depending on the amount of funds coming, might be coming from multiple of donors, different donors at the same time. What modality would work best, either through INGO or UN? And this is for large funding. So I think any of the panelists can respond to that.
Can I say something, please?
Yes.
Sorry, because it was electricity problem. Because of this, it stopped working for a few minutes. Regarding what you mentioned, now in Palestine, there is a big crisis and there is shortage in everything, especially in Gaza. All the essential needs is absent, and they closed all the entrance to Gaza, especially through the Egyptian border. And the people are now suffering from shortage of food, of clean water, medicine. There is, they destroyed all the hospitals, the market destroyed everything. So I don't know what she mean by big funding. Now in Gaza, they are in need for all of the effort from all of the world to support the people in this crisis, especially the humanitarian and the life save needs. It's in the top of priorities, and this is mentioned in all of the reports published by international organizations working in Palestine, UNFPA, OCHA, UN Women. All of these people, they document what's happening in Palestine, and they clarify this sincere need for support to the people in this period of time, and also the same thing in West Bank.
Thank you, Kuala. Alina Potts, if you're online, would you mind clarifying your question, maybe? Is Alina Potts online?
Yeah, I'm online, Christine. How are you?
Yes, I'm great. Kuala was wondering what exactly you meant by increased funding.
Yeah, I can definitely clarify. One thing I mean is that, for Gaza, for Sudan, for other places, there is a desire to donate to organizations. And a lot of times we want to highlight women-led organizations that people can donate to. So not necessarily through the formal channels, although things like the pooled fund and kind of formal donors may also dedicate more money. But for example, a lot of times what happens is donations can be channeled to organizations like the Red Cross or MSF, et cetera, which do good work, but it's hard to connect like these other sources of funding that maybe could be a different revenue channel for women-led organizations. There's barriers to really connecting them. So I'm wondering, like, what would be a way to be able to open up that kind of funding more to women-led organizations?
Maybe I can read the second question so that the different panelists can as well respond to the second. So the second question I'm taking from Maria Sophie. Maria Sophie is saying, something I've seen as an obstacle in many emergency settings when funding and supporting local women-led organizations, including those are informal and refugee-led, is the severe backlash and security risk they often face from the work they do. How can UN NGOs do better to ensure do no harm and protect these organizations and the civil space they work? Also, more specifically in conservative and hostile environments, so issues of backlash. Any of the, with that, can see your hands up, please go ahead.
Yes, but I raised my hand to respond to the previous question.
Please proceed.
I want to talk about the community engagement and the volunteerism role in the response to the crisis. And in specific one, we can't have a lot of funding. So here we can mobilize community support by engaging volunteers and community members who are passionate about the organization's mission. And also we can seek in-kind contributions such as donated services, office spaces, equipment, expertise from other NGOs in the same locations. And also we can work on grant writing and the proposal submissions in the same time. And also we can build the capacity of more volunteers to have more staff and more persons who can support.
Thank you. With that, Gloria Soma, I can see your answer.
Yeah, thank you very much, Christine. Mine just to answer on the question around the backlash. Well, I think we have had this conversation with my colleague Fatma from Nigeria for a while now, in that when women-led organizations begin to advance, not just in terms of their capacity or their financial muscles, we also tend to see a lot of backlash coming from across the space, not just from, let's say, government stakeholders, but also within the NGO fraternity, whether it is UN, whether it is international organizations, the spirit of competition begin to creep in, what I call negative competition begin to creep in. The more louder you become on certain conversations, the more you are, pressed to silence you in these discussions, because you're just becoming too much, or you're highlighting the matter too much. And we've seen this in practice, actually, especially for us who have been on the forefront conversation around the localization agenda. And I think it comes back down to, people understanding the positiveness around these conversations and taking them in a much more constructive manner, and not, looking at it from an angle of, oh, they are beginning to criticize. It should be positive criticism that people need to take within the space and be able to action, and hopefully, bring about the change that we are all making the noise around for at the end of the day. And I think when we take it from that mentality, then we are able to, move away from the negative impacts of some of the women-led organizations going through this backlash discussion. But at the same time, I think we need to also devise means, especially within the GBV AOR. I know we've hinted this a little bit out there, and we're looking at solutions of how do we, counter such negativity as we move forward, so that we are not also becoming an obstacle in, in bringing down women-led organization voices. Let us spade because the spade, and let us tend to, act on that discussion more positively than trying to silence active, voices out there of women-led organizations. Over to you.
Thank you, Gloria. What is clear from what you said is that the backlash does not necessarily come only from the government, but also sometimes comes from the NGOs and the UN, mainly in terms of competition. I think that is something that the GBV AOR will take quite seriously. So we have only about 3 minutes to end this conversation. I don't know if there's any panelists who want to provide, to share reflections to any of the questions raised. Okay.
Christine, I had put in a question for Gloria if there's time. I know she just spoke, but she has gone for the at least second year, maybe longer, I don't know, that I'm aware of, the second year to the COP28. And I was just wondering if she could say a word about how she influences these big global meetings as a leader of a woman-led organization. Just because that's still going on right now, the whole climate change conference. So it'd be interesting to hear a couple of words from her on that.
Okay.
Thanks, Jennifer. Well, I think firstly, I would say that compared to 27 COP, the 28 COP is a lot more complex. I think last year's COP was much more friendlier, much more navigatable for women-led organizations or local actors. And it was also much more accessible, especially given the fact that mainly we had more women-led organizations definitely participate in COP27 compared to COP28 at the moment, because of the cost that comes with being here, and the navigation basically around visas and other impediments. Nonetheless, I think as a women leader within the space, I would say it's quite challenging, because it has always been, a male space, a male dominant space, and being able to, maneuver through and get onto these discussions. Yes, we are entirely trying to, ensure that women's representation within the climate conversations, being tabled on the agenda, and we hope that, at the end of the day, that leaders could be able to action that, and at the same time ensure that, the representation of not just we who are present at the COP, but the implementation and, the putting at the forefront of women-led organizations at the front line back home or back in the field really gets to be seen. I mean, last year, yes, there were a lot of commitments made, but then actioning that process has been painfully slow. We don't know whether all these beautiful pledges that are ongoing until the conclusion of the COP this year, whether this will, go on as another lip sync statements, or it will really come down to, what we really want to see at the end of it, or the practical component around it. Otherwise, it's been so far less than 5 days of trying to navigate a very huge space that is not very friendly for some of us that come from some particular sides of the world. And maneuvering through, the processes is not so easy. I think, and I hope that the next COP will be a lot more friendlier, especially to, people coming from the global south, because of the levels of development also that we do incur. So, yeah, those are some of the shocks that we are experiencing, but we hope that the discussions that we bring from the ground can really be actioned, because in most cases, the voices are just, what favors a particular sect of people or populations. And those that are within the least developed space do not have a very major, voice or bargaining power at the end of it all. So we're yet to see how that dynamic plays out, and how also, the dynamic around inclusion of especially.
Thank you, Gloria.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. It sounds like we do have of recently initiated engagement with the IGAD Climate Prediction and Application Center. So maybe we can have a follow-up conversation to see how best we could maybe have such issues highlighted to the IGAD, which is one of the key actors involved in the COP conversation. So we are 2 minutes late past the time. We apologize for that. Really, I would like to thank all our panelists from the different women-led organizations. Thank all the audiences. Let's keep the conversations forward. Let's keep the discussions. And I'm sure that the GBV AOR will be taking forward some of the issues that has been raised in this conversation. Thank you so much. Do have a wonderful day for those who are yet starting the day, and a great evening to those who are ending their day. Thank you and bye-bye.
If people are willing to put their cameras on and just wave, it's always nice to see who's been on screen. If others can open their